Welcome to this day 2 of this conference, and yesterday was the opportunity to explain to you the big impact that my Guru Swami Chinmayananda had on my life, and today I have a little story to share with you. The year was 1962, I was 8 years old, and India had lost the war to China, and I cannot describe to you the scenes I saw in the streets in Delhi. There was a lot of feeling of low. We used to see in the Times of India pictures of our Defence Minister Krishna Menon and Prime Minister Nehru with very sad looks on their faces, because apparently we had been cheated for those who were not born. Preceding that, there were a lot of conversations and slogans, Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, this kind of conversation. And there was the Nehru-Chauhanlai Accord and the Panchsheel Agreement, which was about having peace between India and China. And soon after that, Chinese army invaded India. And the scenes of these bodies that were returning from the border, they were brought of the soldiers. And I saw these social workers on behalf of the Army Welfare Association going from door to door asking for funds for the Jawans' families. And I'll never forget those scenes in my life, how middle-class families, women in those places in Delhi where I was living in a place called Pusaro, they would remove all their jewelry and donate. I've never seen this in my life, ever again. And astonishing scenes, and mothers coming forward and blessing their children and saying thank you to their families. And my sister used to study in Miranda House. She was an under officer in the National Cadet Corps. And that day there was an army parade which was held on the Army Day. And her duty was to serve water and tea to Prime Minister Nehru. So she was sitting next to him, standing next to him. And that day Lataji sang the song for the first time. And Mere Vatan Ke Logo, Tera Aankh Mein Bhar Lo Pani. And my sister is an amazing singer. So that night we had this tradition in our family. We are 4 brothers and 2 sisters. So my mother would serve us food, and we would all sit on this round table in the evening. And we would share stories. So she came and shared the story about how Lataji sang this song. And because she's a good singer, and Lataji sang that song twice that day, she remembered most of the words. So she came and sang that song. And as a little 8.5-year-old child, I still remember the voice of my sister singing that song and telling us the story about how Nehruji had tears in his eyes. And today is the birthday of Lataji, because this incident in my life became for me one of the big defining moments of my life. As a little child, I made a commitment to myself. When I grow up, I want to do something to bring back that pride in our country, so that our leaders don't have to feel this sense of being betrayed, a sense of humiliation, a sense of weakness in the nation, that we cannot do something. And so in college, when I did my summer job at Tata Motors, and I think Bhaskar reminded me that I visited IIT Madras when he was studying there and in campus in 1976, and on behalf of Tata Motors we selected Ravi Santanam to join Tata Motors. So he reminded me the other day that he and I actually had met in 1976. So then I met Arun Maira of Tata's, and in conversation with my Guru Swami Chinmayananda, they asked me this question, and I blurted it out and said to them, because the question was a very interesting question, what is the purpose of your life? My teacher asked me, so did Mr. Arun Maira in my summer training interview after my summer job at Tata Motors. And I just blurted it out to both people within a few weeks of each other. I said the purpose of my life is to work in industry, create that sense of the fact that made in India is something we could be proud of. We become a powerful economic nation because this country was for many years the center of the earth in terms of economic development. But we do it in a way which really is based on the right values, so that people can say there's an alternate model to development. So we called it economic development with spiritual impoverishment, and the script was written at that time. And Lataji had a big role to play in my life, because this song of hers inspired our whole family. My eldest brother, got into IIT, and he got this admission to all the IITs. He was high in the merit list, and he also got selected in National Defence Academy. But he chose to join the NDA and gave up the IIT because he said, I have to go and serve the country. And my two sisters, who had done masters in philosophy and education and so on, when it came to choice of marrying somebody, they said, we want to marry only army officers and only infantry officers. So both married guards officers. So in 1965-71 wars, you know, our whole family was out at war. My father was in the army ordnance, and they were in a place called Dehu Road in Pune. And my two sisters, their husbands were in the war. My older brother was at war. And you know, those days we didn't have cell phones. So when the telephone used to ring, my mother used to start doing, because she recites the Guru Granth Sahib. So she used to start reciting the ardas for her children and her son-in-law and everybody in the family, because when the phone rang, especially in the night, it was like all of us were praying. We hope it's not a bad news, because a lot of our families did receive those kinds of news, you know. But on the other hand, there was a great sense of pride. It was like almost when I was in school, I was thinking, I am fighting with my brother, with my cousin, and I'm at the border, and I could see pictures of Swami Chinmayananda from the borders. You know, he had gone there to inspire the soldiers, and the army commander would always bring in Swami Chinmayananda, because he used to give a talk on Karma Yoga, on Bhagavad Gita, and say, you know, if you are inspired by the Gita, you develop internal strength of a kind that builds courage and brings great love for the motherland. So today is also the day where we are going to have, in the second session after Bhaskar's talk, this wonderful inspiration from Swami Chinmayananda's followers and on the Bhagavad Gita. So I wanted to recall this wonderful impact of role models, of patriotism, of the larger vision, and of your thinking you are chosen as an instrument for some higher purpose. And when you feel like that, as I mentioned yesterday, leadership just happens to you. And so I've been very fortunate in my life that because of this wonderful teachers and role models and people I grew up with and the loving family which provided that. So I really want to leave you with this thoughts that building a great family and telling the right stories to each other is a wonderful base for culture of the country. What we talk over dinner table at our homes defines the culture of our country, and the stories that we define. Two, really working with the right role models, you know, because in life you have a choice to make. I mean, even when I joined Tata Motors, I had a choice to sell soaps and do other things in my life, but I chose the Tatas because, you know, they were such an inspiring company, and later I was very fortunate to work with Aisha and meet some absolutely amazing people. So I think I want to emphasize the role of the right family, the right role models, and networking with people who really help you to look at the positive side on what is possible, rather than always talk about what doesn't work. And with these words, I want to welcome a special leader to Soil today, Bhaskar. It's taken us 4 years to get him here. He's been very busy building this amazing company, Titan. I don't know how many of you really know the story of Titan? How many of you know the story of Titan? Well, Titan is one of India's most amazing and inspiring companies. I mean, it's a case study which I think should make every Indian proud, and Bhaskar has a lot to do with it. I have observed him and heard about him a lot. I think he's a leader who not only after joining the Tatas is cited as a role model by people working with him, but throughout the Tata group, when people tell me companies which are 5 times bigger than him in size, cite him as a reference company where they want to learn from. So when you win the love and affection of your peer group, in my opinion, then you arrive as a leader. So thank you, Bhaskar, for arriving as a leader. And thank you for coming to Soil, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to listen to you. So may I request you now to